Alright guys, so this is the Express workshop. It's my second workshop that I'm doing. The first I did was Node, and this one's going to be very similar, except showing how to launch the same website with Express and some of the tools that come with it that will be able to assist you on your main projects. So before we start, I thought I'd just show you quickly the website we're going to be launching with Express this time. It's the same one. There are some differences in the back end, but it's the same front end. So it's basically a fake movie rank predictor. So there's a list of movies, and when you enter your name, it will give you a random. Gotta run it first. So there's a list of movies, and when you enter a name, it randomly generates a ranking, or like a prediction of how you'd rank these movies from 1 to 10. Just to be clear, this has nothing to do with your movie database project, if you pick that. I just happened to also create a dummy demo website based on movies, so sorry if that confused any of you last time, but yeah, this has nothing to do with the movie database. It's just something to launch, and we're going to be focusing on the actual server building in this workshop, not how I built the front end here. Yeah, so we'll start now. So the required files and installations for this workshop, and basically anything you do with Express, is to first obviously have Node installed on your computer, and then use npm install express in the directory of your project, and that's basically all you need for Express. I mean, if you want other things, obviously you just install those as well, like bug or whatever, but that's all we need for this workshop. After this workshop, hopefully the completed files will be uploaded to CUlearn under workshops, and I'll also put a recording, or this recording up. Yeah, so the files include the main server, and then a server router called movies router, and a client.js file, just an index.html file which you saw there, and then an image, and the image is just this image right here. Okay, so the outline, first we're just going to go over what is Express, then how to start building the Express server, how to read in data, how to serve data, and how to route with Express. So what is Express? It's basically a back-end web application framework for Node.js. You can think of it like it's very similar to base Node.js, like server building, but it just allows you to have more organization and fewer code, and it allows you to use databases, which will be really important for pretty much every project. Yeah, and it's open source. So to create an Express server, you use the Express modules, similar to how we used HTTP module to create the Node server. We just require the Express module, and then to create the actual server, you set some variable equal to Express function. I mean, usually it's common to use the app as a variable, but you can call whatever you want and try to keep it relevant. And then the last thing we want to do to get it onto the right port is app.listen. So we'll do that to our file now, so you can see what that looks like. So const express, so we're going to require the Express module. And this username here is just a local server side variable holder for like the user you type in. We're gonna be using a post request to update that, and we also need a app. So this is the actual server itself now, this app, and we also would want to listen on the correct port. and we should also print out where the server is listening at so that we can, or know how to load the page quickly in case we forgot or something. Okay, so to read in data with Express, it's pretty much identical to Node. We will be using a path module, which basically allows you to work with file directory paths, and then a FS module, which allows for the reading or writing and manipulation of files in directories. And so there's this .read file function in the FS module that obviously just allows you to read in a file from a current directory. And then there's fs.readdir, which read directory, so read in files from like a current folder or a directory. So we will be using that in our main server. Okay, so we have those in, and we will be using those once we get the handling of some get functions. So we're going to meet having to read in the image, we're going to have to be using path to read in the HTML file, and we're going to be using .read file again for the client.js. So, serving data with Express, you can handle GET requests with app.get. So it's a lot cleaner than Node, where you had to use the method function and then the URL function and a bunch of cascading ifs and else ifs. So this, all you have to do is app.get the query, right? So the URL that it's coming from, and then a function or multiple functions. So in this tutorial we'll only be using one function, but you can actually use multiple. So like if you wanted to have one function do something with the request and then another function do something completely different, then you would do it like that. You'd put the first function name and the second function name. But when you do this, you're going to need a next parameter. And what that does is basically it allows you to call it once you're finished. So at the bottom of this function, you'd have a next call, and then that would send, to start the second function. So let me just take a drink of water here. So to handle post requests, it's also really easy. It's app.post, but we're going to be using also something called express.json, and basically that allows us to parse the request body before we send it into our function, and we set that up by just using app.use express.json. So to handle a post, we do .post, the same thing, query, and then we're going to say our parsing function here, and then the actual function that will handle it. And so functions, all these functions here must have a request and response parameters. They can be called whatever they want, but it's going to be the first is request, second is response, and then if you have, like I said, multiple functions, the third parameter would be next. So we can set that up now. Or actually, you should wait till we serve the data here. So, so we'll get those get and post handles for now. so our first get will be the main home page. And so we're just going to use a function, an anonymous function here, because all we're doing is reading in a file. And that file is our index.html file, and so we'll use this code send file path.join underscore dir name plus the name of our file. And so that so this requests the home page, right? So when I refresh it, you can imagine there being a slash right here. So that gets sent here, gets handled, and the file index.html gets sent back, and it loads. And the next thing that happens would be the client.js is being called in our HTML file that we just sent, and it doesn't know what it is, so it will send a request or slash client.js. And we're going to use another anonymous function here, and we're going to use the read file function to read in client.js is the name of the file, and then we'll use a function with an error parameter and a data parameter, and we'll say if the error, so if error, so that means if an error occurred, if this value is true, or yeah, if it's usually, it's going to be probably if it's over a certain number, but then we set the response status code to 200. So if you have a positive status code and you want to send something back and confirm that you got the request properly, then you set the status code or just status to 200. And like I showed, you can send HTML files with .send file and JSON with .json. And you can also send errors by setting status codes to not 200, and things like 404, and then send an error with just a message 404. So we would like to do that here. We're going to set the status error to 500 and send a little message error, no such file. So we should set the status if there is no error to 200 and say what kind of type the file we're sending back is. It's a JS file, and then we just do .send data, and that's it. So yeah, it's pretty much how we send the client JS file back. And so the last get that we'll be doing from the main server is a get for the picture, that image. So when the HTML loads, it's going to try to load that image and send a request for it to the server here. /image. So again, really similar process here. Going to be reading in the file, the name, image.jpg, and then using a function with error and data, checking for an error. If it occurred, set the status to 500 in this case. This time it's a JPEG image. Sorry. Not in the error. You want to send error. No such file. So if the error doesn't occur, set the status to 200, type to, this time is the JPEG. And then send data. Alright, so that's how you do the GET requests. And so to do a POST request, so the POST request we're going to be handling is when I type a name in here and hit enter, in the client.js, there's an enter, where is it, save name, and that gets called whenever this button gets entered with something in it. Alright, so whenever I hit this button, then the save name function is called, and this creates a AJAX post request for /name, and it sends over a stringified object with a name in it, which it will be whatever is in this input box. And so we won't be doing anything with it on the server, but we will save it. So in case you wanted to save things, save a username, or anytime someone types in anything into that box and hits enter, if you wanted to save that information on the server, this is how you would do it. So let's say app.post. So this is where you're going to handle a post request. /name was our URL. Express.json to parse it, and then we're going to be calling a function update user. So we'll do that function here. Update user request response. Username is equal to request.body.name. So it's already been parsed, so you can say request.body.name because our key was name, and so that updates this global variable for the username of the last person to enter anything. And so then we just want to send a positive status back and send nothing. You could send like updated username or something in here in a string if you wanted to. Yeah, so that's actually it for the main server. So this, what we've written, when you refresh the page, we'll have loaded this image. It will, let's take a look in it. It will load this client.js script, and it will save the username once we hit enter there. But it hasn't done anything with the movies, so what we're going to do for that is called set up a router. So routing with Express is pretty easy. So what it means is we're going to have anything, it's a way to organize your server to handle different parts and different queries in separate files. So we're going to be handling all queries that begin with /movies in a separate file. Okay, so how we set that up is using app.use/movies and then the example router. And the example router is a file, JS file, so example-router.js, and we require it just like any other module, but with a / in front of it. And so we set here, we're going to be doing /movies, but in this case just whatever example query is equal to the example router. So any query that comes in starting with /example would go to the example router file. And then in that file, you want to basically set that it's basically create the router. It's like a mini server, I guess, that's connected to the other one. And so you just say let router equal express.router function, and then you would handle get and post request the same thing, but with the router file instead of app. And then you want to export the router here. Oh, sorry, this thing keeps getting in the way. Anyway, you export the router back to the main server. So before we create the router file here, we're going to have to add something into this file so that we can call it. So we say let movies router equal to require router, movies router. And we say app.use app.use / movies router. Alright, so everything with / movies gets sent to movie router. Okay, so in movies router, this is the server. This is the server-side array of all those movies you see here. Okay, and so we request them on load. A request from our client.js for get / movies is sent to the server, and then from the server it will be sent to this movies router. Alright, so before we can handle that though, we should load in the proper modules. So we'll need Express. We'll need to set the router variable. Should be capital R. And then we need to export it down here. Okay, so that's set up. Alright, so this function you see here that came with the base movies router is just how we get that prediction. Right, so whatever I enter, how it randomly generates this. I just shuffled basically a list by using random indexes, so it's a pretty bad prediction, but I mean, it shows, you know, just how to, I guess, manipulate an array. If you're interested, just randomly shuffle an array. I don't know why you'd ever want to use that, but there you go. So the first thing we need to do is set up the router get and handle /. So like this isn't going to handle when you do / like this, right? Because that's handled in the main server. This would handle if you do / movies /. Right, and so that's being sent from our client.js. So you can actually picture like another / here, which is an empty query. It's automatic. So we need to handle that. So this would, you can picture it like movies being here, but obviously we routed everything from the server from that, so we're only going to pick up what's after movies. So if it's nothing other than / movies, then we know it wants the list of movies back. So we'll use a function, respond movies. And then we'll also be routing a shuffle function, which is or a shuffle query, which happens when you hit enter here. It will request a shuffled list from the server, and obviously we're going to be making use of this function I just mentioned. So movies / shuffle will be handled here, and we'll respond shuffled. Alright, so now we gotta make the respond shuffle. Yeah, so now we gotta make these two functions here. So we'll start with the first one. Respond movies. And we need again request and response. So it's going to be pretty easy. We're going to just say so response.status 200, and you can combine obviously queries like the functions like this together with multiple dots. So it makes that's one of the reasons it makes Express so much cleaner than Node. You can just pile on different functions onto the same response line. Set the status code positive, and we're going to use .json to basically it'd be like .json.stringify in Node, but this just packages it up into JSON. And so we'll set the key to movies, and we'll set our movies list to go inside that object. And there we go. That's all you have to do to send the movies over. And then I'll do the other function, respond shuffled. So this one almost as easy. We're going to have to make use of our array.shuffle, but it goes the same way. Set the status code, .json. This time we're going to set it to shuffled, and we will, instead of just putting the movies into the object, we're going to put it through the array for the array shuffle first, like that, and then that outputs an array that's shuffled, so we'll go into that part of the object. And that is literally it. That is all parts of the server and router that are required to make this run. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, you can DM me on Discord, or if you have issues with installing anything, just let me know. Yeah, thanks.